It's Friday night, everybody. You know what that means. It's Friday night. Let's have some fun. Let's get together and play a ton.
Hi, I'm Matt.
And I'm Jon.
And we're
Friday Night Games.
We are two board game enthusiasts who want to immerse you into our love of the hobby by bringing you board game content every Friday. We create for several platforms, including Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, the internet. That's it.
OnlyFans.
Oh. No.
We are currently looking for some advertisers, so if you would like your product or company featured in our podcast, send us an email at info@fridaynight.games.
On today's show, we have a very special guest with us tonight. We have Michael from Athex Tube. So big welcome back to Michael. What's going on?
Hey, how's it going, guys? I'm glad to be back.
Give us your best Canadian A.
Hey.
Today, we're all going to be talking about epic games and the most epic games we have ever played. So, as a note, Michael has been on the show before, which specifically is episode 64, Exploring Euro Games. In it, Michael gave us a game to try, which was Golem Century Edition, which was a hand builder, and we had a ton of fun, right, Jon?
Yeah, it was a really cool game. I really enjoyed playing it.
Yes, and we appreciated his suggestion and being amazing and coming on the show so much that we welcomed him back today.
Yeah, I'm really glad to be here, and I'm especially glad that you guys enjoyed Century Golem Edition so much.
Dude, the game was awesome. Like, I liked it because it was so simple to play. I know we're not here to talk about Century Golem Edition. I'll probably gush on about it for another 20 minutes if no one stops me. So, but yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, so where can people find you? What's your channel all about, just in case they haven't listened to you or listened to episode 64?
Yeah, so my channel is located at youtube.com/Athex Tube, ATHEXTUBE. I can also be found on Instagram and Twitter at Athex Tube. So if you want to see some content there, most of my content is posted to YouTube, though. So I recommend checking it out and subscribing.
Which platform are you most active on? I know you're most active on YouTube, but are you most active on Twitter or Instagram if someone wants to reach out?
I would say Instagram. I try to do at least once a week posts on there, which doesn't always happen, but I'll post something that I'm looking at or maybe a new game I'm playing or trying out.
Awesome. So how often do you produce content? Is there anything special we should be looking out for coming up soon?
Yeah, so typically on my YouTube channel, I'll post 2 to 3 videos a week. For the past 4 months, I've been focusing on having a weekly board game top 10 climbers. So I'll explore the fastest climbing games on the Board Game Geek ranks. So, sometimes in here you'll see games that you otherwise wouldn't see that's starting to rocket up the ranks. Sometimes you'll see, Gloomhaven, for example, will show up. And the other videos are either unboxings, playthroughs, or reviews, depending upon what I've worked on in the past couple weeks.
Cool. Yeah, there's definitely a really good video of me and you playing Roar and Write on there.
Yeah.
People like crazy dinosaur puns. They definitely need to go check that one out. That's for sure.
Yeah, that one's going to be coming out this year. I think it'll be available for everyone.
Yeah, that's exciting. And we played it already, so we already know all about it. So just as a quick note, what's the top climbers right now?
Well, the one, as I mentioned, Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion is rocketing up the list. We've been watching that for a while. I think it's at number 6 right now. Mm-hmm. And I expect it'll be either number 1 or number 2 within 2 or 3 months, maybe. The other ones that are kind of skyrocketing are Dune Imperium and Eclipse Second Dawn of the Galaxy.
There's no surprise about Dune Imperium. And then Eclipse, I actually monitor the hot list. I think we talked about this last time too, but I noticed Eclipse has been skyrocketing and Dune Imperium has been skyrocketing up that hot list, which is, I think is a different metric than the top 100, but has similar things, right? I think they both have a slope or something that they use to calculate.
Yeah, well, for the stuff I'm looking at, it's based purely on games that are reviewed. The hotness is based on reviews plus like people viewing the games.
Right. Nice. Oh, very cool. Very cool. Yeah, looking forward to seeing some more of your content, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's going to skyrocket up the list. Do you think Jaws of the Lion's going to hit Game of the Year for 2020 on the BGG Awards?
Probably. I don't know. I mean, I think I think it's going to be tough because Jaws of the Lion is very popular, but you have, I don't know if Dune Imperium qualifies. I don't know when it was released, but you have Dune Imperium, you have Eclipse Second Dawn, and you have Dwellings of Eldervale, which are all games that got extremely good critical response and are getting exceedingly high ratings. So it won't be like, when Gloomhaven was released, I think it was clearly the best game of that year in a lot of categories. This year, I think there's a little bit more competition, so it's hard to say which way it's going to fall.
Very cool.
Good point. Yeah, I really enjoyed Dune Imperium, so I feel like that's like my game of the year. We'll see how it goes. I enjoyed Gloomhaven, Jaws of the Lion too. So
yeah, I've only played Dune Imperium of those, but I do have Dwellings of Eldervale. Is that what it's called? I think that is. I have it on order. I just haven't received it. I'm still waiting for it to come.
How'd you get an order for that game?
Basically, we have I'm on a pre-order on a Canadian website, so they go through their supplier and they have pre-orders for it. So I'm on a pre-order of it, which is a pre-order that is sold out. So there's a pre-order of it sold out that I'm on and I'm waiting for. Some people got it fulfilled, but other people are still waiting. So who knows? I probably won't even get it by the time the BGG awards hit, which is kind of sad.
I'm actually regretting not picking it up. There's a local game store here that buys Kickstarters and stuff. I could have picked up the deluxe legendary edition wherever after it came out. And I looked at it and I said, should I get this game? Because the reviews hadn't come out yet. And I was like, I'm probably not going to be able to play it for a while, but now you can't get it. So now I regret. I'll have to pick it up next time when they reprint it, I guess.
And that's the problem with board games in general, is that there might be a really popular game, but the limited production run prevents people from picking it up, right? So just oh man, come on. I need this game. It's like
yeah, there definitely is that. I mean, there was games like Dune, right, that weren't reprinted for I don't know, it must have been 30 years.
Yep. Yeah, Dune was reprinted in 2019, right? The one you're talking about. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Craziness. All right. Well, that is we're here to talk about games, so we actually started doing it, but we're actually here to talk about totally epic games. So on that note, what are some key points that the most epic game has to have for you? So I don't know who wants to start.
Well, I can start.
Okay, go for it.
All right. So for me, an epic game needs a good story arc or a good narrative. Mm-hmm. You're looking at 2+ hours of gameplay, possibly a legacy element. That's not a deal breaker for me. The theme has to be super immersive. Lots of decision making, but I think the most important thing, it's got to have good box art. Specifically, if the dude who does
good box art. That's all.
Listen.
Okay.
Listen. Specifically, the dude that does the Star Wars posters, Drew Struzan. If he can do the box art, I'm sold.
Which guy? Who?
His name is Drew Struzan. He does posters for Star Wars.
Okay.
Has he done all the posters for Star Wars?
All the new ones that have been coming out since I think the trilogy was re-released back in the 90s.
I'm looking up his art right now. Oh yeah, that's
he definitely has a distinct style.
Yeah, right.
I think Star Wars when I see his art. That's exactly what I think.
There you go. Epic.
All right.
Totally epic.
I like your box art answer. I think that's super unique. So the other ones, I don't know about them. We'll go. Well, I believe so. I believe in them. What about you, Michael? What makes a totally epic game for you?
Yeah, so I have 3 key points here. The first one is large scale. So an example of this is War of the Ring. It takes place over the whole Lord of the Rings book series. The second point would be long playtime or campaign legacy elements. So typically, epic games have a longer than average playtime or some sort of campaign or legacy element. Some examples of this would be longer playtime would be Zia Legends of Drift System or Roads and Boats. For legacy elements, I would say Pandemic Legacy or maybe Gloomhaven as a campaign style legacy. And the third point would be the game as an event. So while many people have either weekly or monthly game nights, I think an epic game doesn't fit well into just your standard game night. It's more of a special event. So a good example of this would be Twilight Imperium 4. A 6-player game takes basically all day, 7 to 12 hours. Ish.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty impressive. I know it was a long game. I didn't know it was that long of a game. We've never played it.
Yeah, I mean it's a fairly long game, and at least in my experience, especially if you have some new players, you're looking at like 10 to 12 hours. There's people that play this every week and they can finish it in 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, I guess if you know what you're doing, right, or you know what you're trying to pursue.
Exactly, and you know all the rules. I mean, it's got a substantial rule book. Maybe I should have mentioned that one is just having a big rule book.
I think that comes with the large scale, right? Large scale is your rule book. If it's big, it's going to be epic, right? More rules equals more epic game.
I think that's just like one of those unspoken rules.
Yeah, it's a rule to the rule. So I only have 2 points. Mine are pretty straightforward. Mine is long, so like 6 people takes 10 hours to play. And I actually looked this up on Board Game Geek, the forums, and someone said they played a 6-hour game of Game of Thrones. It took them 6 players took 10 hours to play, which sounds a little crazy.
Oh yeah.
And then someone said Mage Knight with 5 people in Conquest mode took 14 hours, which I believe, because I played Mage Knight solo, and I'm like, it's like the box is like, 2 hours. I'm like, this solo game took me like 3 hours or more. Like, I don't know what they're putting on this. I don't know what they're trying to. I think they're trying to undersell it on the box. You know what I mean? Like, it's super long. There's so many decisions you're making.
I mean, I think that's a typical problem, right?
Yeah. Because we love decisions. That's really what it is, right? We love decisions, and that's going to make the game long. Game of Thrones makes sense because, you're trying to take over Westeros. So good on them. And then my second point is there's an element of politics with other players. You have kind of a wheel and deal resources or strategies you have to take into account with other players. Like, you have to make sure you're either, sidestepping around them in an area placement, or you're trying to get extra resources, or you're trying to be like, hey, I want to attack you here because later on I might need to get something from you. And I think that actually creates the longness of the game when you have to start having politics involved. Mm-hmm. All right, so I guess we should really narrow down all of our points into a few points. So I think that our points boil down to these 4 things. 1, an epic game has an immersive story / legacy element and is very large scale. 2, an epic game is typically a longer game with at least 2 hours of gameplay. Point 3 is that an epic game always involves decision making and politics. And point 4, when playing an epic game, it is a very special event. It could be spread out over several weeks due to legacy components and whatnot. So everyone agree?
Sounds good.
All right. So therefore, we will use that for the rest of this podcast to define all the epic moments that we've experienced. Okay, so now that we've defined totally epic game, Michael, we know that you used to play a lot of Twilight Imperium before the epidemic. So... And we think this is a totally epic game. Can you give us some sort of 5-minute rundown of the game? No need to go deep into the game at all. Just give us an overall goal, what a turn might look like, maybe a tiny bit of strategy that could be really large bit of strategy that really gets you going.
What game are we talking about?
Twilight Imperium 4. 4th edition.
4th edition, not second or first edition or third edition. 4th edition.
4th edition.
4th edition.
I guess right off the bat, is there a difference between 1, 2, 3, 4? Have you played all of them?
I've actually never played the first edition, but I have played second, third, and fourth. The biggest change was between second and third edition, where it turned from a dudes on a map game into a negotiation Euro game, Ameritrash mix.
Let me throw it Ameritrash. They had to theme it.
As one of my friends say, they basically took every mechanism in board gaming and threw it into a single game.
To make the world's most complicated space conquest game known to man.
Pretty much. Yeah. So I'll try to give an explanation in 5 minutes, but it may be a little epic.
You don't mind if we chime in every now and then?
No.
Okay,
no.
Perfect.
No, feel free. So basically, Twilight Imperium 4th edition, and this is without the new expansion, you'll play as one of 17 asymmetrical races vying for leadership of the galaxy. To accomplish this, you need to secure either 10 or 14 victory points, depending upon the game length you choose. You're going to earn those victory points through completing mostly through completing secret or public objectives, but they can also be earned through negotiation with other players and area control in the game. Twilight Imperium 4, or TI4, is a unique blend of Ameritrash, as we mentioned, Euro mechanisms, coupled with a large amount of negotiation, as almost everything in the game is either for sale or trade or can be used as a tool. Winning this game, requires strong strategic ability, but also requires a strong use of negotiation and persuasion, as you need to convince other people at the table to help you or to stop your competitors from winning. And I think that is at its heart what draws so many people to this game, is that it takes your space opera type setting and turns it into a game that has Euro mechanisms, but also has this negotiation element in it.
So the negotiation is like the main thing that why people really love this game, you think? Like the whole like what are you negotiating? Like, I'm not going to attack you, or you're going to give me resources? Is that sort of the thing?
I mean, it could be anything. So 4th edition actually brought some new cards to the table where each person has a hand of these promissory notes that you can give to other people. And for example, one of the promissory notes is simply you get a victory point. So you can trade away a victory point to a player to get something that you need for yourself. And obviously they need the victory point to win.
So you earn the victory point, so you technically could be like, I'll give you this victory point so you can get ahead if you give me...
Exactly. And the victory point isn't worth anything to you. You have to trade it away it's only worth something to another player in this case. So you're essentially giving another player a victory point, which is, either around, 10% of their way to winning in exchange for something. Obviously it's got to be something. And the other interesting thing is if you trade something to one player, they can then trade that to another player. For example, there's another card that may let you stop a player from attacking you, which can come in really handy at a key point in the game that you absolutely need to not have this player attack you. Having that card could mean the difference between winning and losing. So, you have to trade stuff away, or you have to trade things with people, but you also have to be cognizant of, are you getting a good enough deal for it? And that's, I think it's more of an art than a science.
So it really hits the decision making and politics point that we said. So that is 100% there. That is the game.
Yes. Yeah. And that's the thing. On its surface, it doesn't look like it's that sort of game. It looks like a typical dudes on a map game, like Risk.
Yeah. When I look at it, and John, tell me if I'm John, what do you think when you see it? When you look at Twilight Imperium, what do you think? What comes to mind?
Oh, I don't even want to touch it.
No, but what do you think you're going to be doing?
Yeah, just space exploration, maybe some area control. I just know the game takes a long time to play, and I just know I don't have that kind of time to dedicate to an epic event that it would take to play the game. So I try not. I don't even really look at it, and I just don't pay attention to it.
So when
all.
Pictures come up, you're like, I just got to get this out of my feed here.
Yeah,
because
just don't like it. I won't see it anymore.
To me, I've never played it, so I'm probably a horrible person to say this, but I think it looks like I'm getting into this, the final battle in Return of the Jedi when they're above Endor, and you have all the ships. That's what I think when I see that game. I'm like, okay, this is going to be a lot of planning. There's going to be some sort of fighting with area control. There's going to be some sort of research element. There's going to be some sort of planet exploration. I'm going to be a race of some sort of alien, so I'm going to be doing something with that race, trying to populate the galaxy, right?
Yep.
How far off are we?
Wait. Does it have good box art?
Well, good may be a personal preference. It's got a space lion.
I love it.
So you're saying the box art's not the greatest.
I mean, I would say I like the space lion.
Okay. Right.
So I also want to talk a little bit about kind of what you're going to do and some basic strategies of the game.
Go for it.
In case people are interested, or in case people have an opportunity to play this game. I do recommend that, if you're able to, playing TI4 is something, every board gamer should try out once in their life. I think, at least, just because it's such a unique game. So a typical turn is where you'll choose to do a single action, and there's a variety of actions. Some examples of these actions would be to move ships, to produce ships, or to activate your strategy card. And then each person will take one turn going in turn order until a person passes, and then they'll not take actions until the next game round. Typically for a 10-point game, it'll last 5 to 8 game rounds, and each game round, if you're doing well, you're spending about an hour per round, I think, in a 6-player game.
Wow. So that's like a minimum 6 hours right there.
Yeah, and actually the way we play it is there's actually even kind of a pre-game thing where you build the galaxy, and we don't usually do that. We randomly generate it to give kind of a more fair galaxy, but there's a whole strategy into just building the galaxy. I've heard stories about like professional TI players, when they're building the galaxy, they're already like negotiating and giving away like deals for, 3 turns into the game to get stuff placed the way they want it to. So I guess it has its own like meta game or whatever strategy to how you build the galaxy.
Wow, that's crazy. I couldn't even imagine that. There's a game before you even start the game, basically.
Yeah,
like
pretty much.
Wow.
And then a few general strategy tips in TI4 can vary a lot depending upon your group because so it's a very interactive game. But these points will help you kind of develop a strategy that works across, I think, a lot of different people. One is to understand your race well. Each of the races are very asymmetric, and each race should be played differently. For example, there's a space turtle race. And as you would expect...
Oh, hold on. I gotta press pause here. Space turtles? Oh, are they all animals? Are they all like Earth animals?
I mean, there's the space lions and the space turtles, and there are like the space wasps, I think.
Okay. There's space beekeepers, and there's space... I'm just kidding.
Wait, is this space turtle like the turtle in the novel It, where it like holds the entire universe on its shell, and it's arch nemesis?
I wouldn't think it's like that. No, they just build space. They just build space cannons.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Just a normal space turtle race.
Just normal space turtles.
Normal space turtles. So a second strategic point would be negotiate well and often. So winning a game usually comes down to not only a strong strategic or tactical play and maybe a little bit of luck, but also strong negotiation. Since everything in TI4 is negotiable, you need to offer your help to other people and trade things for favors fairly often. And if you want to do well, either, if you're building the galaxy, trading away stuff when you're building a galaxy, to even the first turn. I think in the last game I played, I traded away my victory point on my very first turn to get something to kind of give me a little boost in the beginning.
Nice.
Don't make enemies with your neighbors, the people directly adjacent to you early in the game.
Like on the board, basically? Like your board
neighbors? Yeah, basically,
okay.
Yeah, because everyone will be kind of around the outside of this big game board or hexagon created game board. And there'll be 2 people that are kind of the closest to you. I think early in the game, making enemies with them will pretty much ruin you for the game, at least in my experience.
I feel like this game would be really fun and really terrible to play with our group now.
Yeah, I definitely think so.
Like we have one guy who like takes a little bit of time. Like he likes to kind of try to like understand everything that's going on in the game. So makes his decisions are like really well thought out. And then we have another guy who he's like the wild card. So he'll either play like really seriously or he'll just try to screw anyone over.
Specifically the thinker guy.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be interesting. That's for sure.
Yeah. I don't know if we'd make it through 6 hours though. That'd be a long time.
No, they would kill each other.
Just have a lot of like good food so that people can take breaks.
Fair enough. Sorry, Michael.
and my final point is, it kind of goes back to one of my earlier points, is that for the most part, any bad situation in TI4 can be fixed with strong negotiation. So you could be in the worst situation. You got like some guy breathing down your throat, ready to take your home world, and you don't have any ships, but you can always trade away your victory point, or you can trade for help somewhere else to remove that problem potentially.
When you trade victory points, is it only to other players, or is there like a sort of mechanism outside the game that you can use your victory points to spend in?
No, so the only way you can trade a victory point is with this specific card, so you only have one of them that you start with. But if you traded for someone else's victory point card, you can trade that away then to someone else. You do lose a victory point.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, and it's thinking through all these, like, for example, your ceasefire card lets someone prevent you from attacking them, essentially. And you have to think about not only who you're trading it to, but who they might trade that card to that you may not want to have that card.
Wow, this is
when you're giving that away.
This is pretty deep. This is like real world game right now, right? If you have to think
it's
several moves ahead to like human, like how they're going to interact with each other as factions, right? So that's kind of neat.
And how much you trust the other player.
Oh, I don't trust any players I ever play with. Not even if it's a co-op game and they're on my team. So
thanks.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. This game sounds crazy. I mean, it just sounds like it's very complicated because they have because that negotiation and decision making thing seems very complicated. It seems like that is the thing that makes it the most complicated. Am I right or am I?
Yeah. I mean that's part of it. That definitely adds to the playtime. I think if it wasn't for that, the playtime would be cut substantially. Okay. There are a lot of rules in the game. It has, I don't remember, it has like, we'll just say a 40-page rulebook plus a 20-page learn to play.
Wow. Wow, I thought Mage Knight was bad. Okay, this is large. This is large.
The font size is a little bit bigger than Mage Knight, though.
Oh, that's good. That's good. I have bad eyes, so I need to see the words in big form. So that's good. Wow. Okay, so we know it hits decision making. We know the box art is totally epic, especially if it has space turtles and space lions. It's pretty awesome. Is there an immersive story to it?
I wouldn't say there's much story going on here, although the guy, I think it was on RTFM, the YouTube channel, he did write like a more story elements to go with the game, and there is a backstory for each race, but I don't think most people read the backstory.
Okay, so it's there if you want it, but it's not the you know how like Gloomhaven, the story is the main focal point. It gets you through, right? So like,
yep.
This game it's just an epic space opera, basically. So you don't really worry. The story is you playing the game, basically.
Yeah, I think it's more you're creating the story in this case, right?
Okay.
With how the galaxy unfolds and how epic space battles take place, right? It's kind of like you're creating your own story, I would say.
Gotcha.
That's kind of cool.
And we did talk about it's a long game. How long does it? You said it was like basically an hour per player minimum. Is that am I getting that right?
An hour per round. So
okay. Wait, how many rounds are there?
5 to 8 rounds in a typical 6-player game. I would say if you're doing well, you're at an hour round. If you're with inexperienced players, you're probably looking at 2 hours around.
Wow. Is that because you're looking up rules a lot to see what you're trying to be able to do?
Exactly. And people you're the amount of moves you have in this game are actually surprisingly limited. Just in terms of it has a token system that you only get maybe 3 to 5, moves on the board every round. You have to be thinking a lot about what you're going to do and how you're going to use those moves to maximize things.
Oh, interesting. Okay. And then I guess our last point is, I'm assuming this is a yes, the game plays as a very special event, correct?
Typically, yeah. So, I mean, there are the people, like I mentioned, that play it every week or, a couple times a month. But I would say the majority of people, even big game reviewers, play it a couple times a year at most.
When you play it, is it like a big event? Like, okay, we're going to spend the day doing this. We're going to have dinner, lunch, and just kind of hang out. Is that like a typical gaming session of it for you and your group?
Yeah, typically. So I've done it kind of both ways, where if we do a 4-player game, we could start at 5 p.m. and end at 2 a.m. But for a typical 6-player game, we'll do it on someone's birthday or something and make it a birthday event or a full day.
That's cool.
Deal.
That's nice. Like a bonding moment over spending victory or trying to trade victory points to each other. It's cute.
or screaming across the table, telling them that you'll end them if they do something. Yeah, they can.
I will end you. I don't care.
John,
you'll die on your birthday.
John, I just want you to give me your victory point, brother. Please.
I will kill you.
Wow.
Yeah. Because a lot of these games are really close, right? And we've even had games that have the winner is simply based on the turn order of scoring victory points.
Wow.
So the games can be very close. So a slight swing in the game can make a big difference.
Oh wow! So the games are always like about 1 or 2 point differences, basically.
Usually, and sometimes even between the top player and the last player can be very close.
Wow.
If you have experienced players playing.
Well, that's good. That's good. It stops that means there's less of a runaway leader problem, right? If the swings aren't that much, so that's good.
Yeah, I mean the runaway leader problem is fixed usually by the negotiation element.
Okay.
If you're clearly way ahead, no one's going to trade with you.
Right, and the people way behind are going to trade with each other to catch up, right? So it kind of makes sense.
Exactly.
That's cool.
I think you said earlier that you haven't played the new expansion, if I'm correct on that?
No, I haven't played it. I hope to play it in 2021. I actually don't have it yet, but one of my friends does.
Nice.
And it's I think an epic expansion to an epic game.
Nice. Do you know what it adds to the base game?
Yeah, it adds a few interesting things. I can go over a list for you guys and kind of tell you what I think my favorite parts will be. Obviously, I haven't played it yet.
Yeah, let's do it.
So the first thing is it adds support for an 8-player game.
Ooh.
So up to this point, TI4 is limited to 6 players. If you wanted to spend maybe 2 days playing it or go well into the night, you can play 8 players. So it turns I would say an epic game into a crazy epic game.
Wait, how many more hours do you think that's going to add?
If I was to guess, with experienced players, it would probably add 4 hours, maybe 3 hours to the game.
Wow.
But for inexperienced players, I think it's unplayable. I'm not sure I would ever.
It's unlimited. It's like weeks. Don't even play it. You're going to be old. You're all going to age 30 years or something.
I'm not sure I would ever sit down for an 8-player game.
Okay.
It would be tough. I do like the new colors they added though for these players. I think it was purple and pink, which looked really good on the game board.
Sweet. Cool.
There's 7 new factions added. So this is my favorite part of the expansion, I think. Each faction is asymmetric, and just having more unique races in your game, more to choose from, when you start the game, I think is going to add a lot to the TI4 experience.
How many factions are in the original game?
It was 17. So this brings it to 24, I think.
Wow, and they're all asymmetrical? Slight differences or
Well, yeah, so there's each of them are going to start with different technologies. Each of them are going to start with different racial abilities. Each of them are going to start with or able to build different, I forget what it's called. It's your race's capital ship. Each of them are going to have a different strategy. I mean, it depends. I'll give one example is the Space Lion's special ability is they can trade with anyone on the board from the first moment, but because normally you can only trade with people that you're adjacent to, that you have a system or ship that's in adjacent sectors. So they have an ability where they can start trading with people early in the game. Or another one, there's this race that works with wormholes, and they actually have a ship that creates wormholes. Their capital ship creates wormholes on the map, and they can just wormhole people to their capital ship.
Oh, that's cool.
From there. So there's really, really cool stuff that these races do that are vastly different than other races in the game. Another thing they added, and this is my second favorite part of the expansion, is they've added leaders for both the new factions and the old. So these leaders give you kind of new special abilities that you can you start with one, and I think you can unlock the other 2 throughout the game that lets you do something, even more unique for your race.
Wow.
The expansion adds a new unit for all races, which are mechs that you can customize. So you have this new mech unit that you can I think you can make it sometimes fly through space, or sometimes be a better ground fighter, or a better space combat unit. So it's kind of a unique way of doing that, and it looks really cool.
Is that in response to a flaw with the game? Were people complaining that they weren't able, some of their units weren't good at ground fighting and things, or do you think it was just sort of an element they decided to throw in to change up the whole game?
I suspect someone said that I really like how mechs look.
I really like how that turtle mech is going to look. We need to throw it in the game right now.
Yeah.
The lions need a mech too.
But maybe my opinion on that is that I think the ground combat could be a little bit difficult for some races. Some races had overwhelming superiority in ground combat.
Okay.
And I think the mechs maybe helped even that out a little bit.
Okay.
Give it a little bit more balance.
That's good.
It adds a new exploration system. So they were, I think TI3 and TI2 both had this exploration system that wasn't very good. So they have this new exploration system that I've read and is actually pretty fun and good.
Sweet.
And then the last thing they added was these legendary planets and relics. So one of the things with TI4 is the center of the galaxy is Mechatol Rex, and it can become like a really nasty place for big fights. And if you kind of get entrenched on Mechatol Rex, it's really hard to unentrench you in the game. So they've added these legendary planets which people can go to outside of Mechatol Rex that maybe aren't as good, but they provide some other options in the game, which I think is unique.
Wow. It sounds like it's like they added a whole nother game to this game.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me. Am I wrong?
It is. It's kind of like they added a whole nother game, and it comes with a whole nother game price tag too. So it's
whoa.
not cheap.
How much is that other game price tag?
So TI4 retails at 150 US, and the expansion is another 100.
Wow.
I knew that, but it's still shocking when you hear it again.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh man.
It's a lot for a game that you do play very rarely. I would say most people play very rarely. I actually went before TI4. I went maybe like 6 years without playing TI3.
Wow, that's crazy. But so when you played TI4, you obviously loved it better than TI3.
Yeah, no, they did fix some of the issues I had with TI3. They fixed some of the balance stuff, and I think that they did speed up gameplay a little bit. You can't tell now, but TI3 took like another 20 or 30% longer.
Gotcha. You can't tell by the way we're talking about it, but they definitely sped it up. Yeah, that's cool. Wow, that's some very informative stuff. I mean, I kind of want to play it, but I'm scared because I'm the rules person, so I'm gonna have to learn these rules, and and it sounds like there's gonna be a lot of rules, and it sounds like the first game is gonna be pretty hefty.
Yeah, as long as you get the big rules right, you'll probably, even if you make some small mistakes, like we occasionally still make mistakes on some minor rules, but usually it doesn't impact the result of the game in any meaningful way.
Well, we get big rules wrong, so am I right?
I think that's one of the. I think what we need to do is we need to rent a cabin somewhere, get the game group together for a week, and just play it little by little each night.
This sounds like how a murder happens.
Well, Bill and Novi are gonna murder each other, so I mean it's the perfect setting.
And we're the accomplices, dude. We're the ones going to jail. You know that, right? We rent a cabin, they kill each other. We're going to jail. Is there at least?
I mean, if you rent a cabin for a week, you could play this game 5 or 6 times, right?
There you go. We'll be experts.
It's like we come out with a PhD. We've learned everything about TI4. Nothing is this complicated. In fact, we have solutions to the pandemic because of TI4. Just so you all know. Well, thank you for explaining that to us. I actually do. I've always wanted to play it, and I've always been curious about a lot of the details. So thank you for clearing up a lot of the details in my head that I had no idea. John had no clue. He wouldn't even look at the game.
No, I was just kidding. I'm interested in it. I just know I don't have that amount of time to dedicate to playing a game like that. But maybe one day, maybe when my kids are older.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever, I always see people at conventions. There's some group of people playing it. I know last year at PAX South, there was always a TI4 tournament that they host with a couple TI4 games. But I kind of felt bad for one of the groups. I came by and I saw them it was all set up and stuff and no one was by the table. Then I came back a few hours later and it looked like they were just starting over again. I asked them what happened. And apparently they took a break for lunch. When they came back, the game was all packed up for them in a box.
Oh, someone must have, maybe someone didn't know. That's sad.
They didn't know. They just thought they were helping out. So, I mean, I felt bad for the people that were playing. But at that point, I probably would have just been like, okay, this is not meant to happen. But a lot of them restarted the game and finished it that day.
Well, they probably really wanted to play it. So that was probably their main thing, right?
Well, yeah, I guess if it's in the board game library and you don't have to pay for the game, it's not a bad way.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to pay for the ticket to get in.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I guess I've never played TI4 at a convention, but I could see it being really fun just because of you're interacting with a lot of people, and there's going to be people coming by asking you what is this game and talking to you and seeing this negotiation happen, which is kind of a unique experience, right?
Except you're going to be playing that game for like the whole time, which is crazy. But I don't know. Yeah, I guess like maybe if you're going to a convention and you specifically know what you're going to be doing there, then it makes sense. I mean, these people obviously broke off for lunch and probably went around the convention center checking stuff out too, right?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so story time. What is the most epic game, or maybe most epic game experience you have ever had? Who wants to start there?
I've got 3 answers.
I think. Am I in all these answers?
So
am I in all these answers before you go on?
Can you
like?
what?
Am I in every experience of the epic game?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I think we might have the same answers, but go ahead.
Probably. But I think like the 2 games that come to mind when I think about epicness of playing, I would say, when we played Pathfinder.
Oh, yeah.
And Clank Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think like the funniest story about an epic game is where we went to Mustache Matt's house to play a 9-player game of Firefly.
Oh my! You know what? This is the exact one I have written down too. So we might as well just do this together. But go, you can go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll throw in my.
Yeah. So Board Game Bill in our group, he bought Firefly. He has all the expansions, and he wanted to play it. And usually before the pandemic, once a month we would have a Pathfinder night. So we replaced playing Pathfinder to play Firefly.
Well, hold on. So let me go deep into that before you continue. I was the dungeon master, and it takes a lot of energy to be a dungeon master, right? You're always planning everything. You're always trying to be creative. And then one month I'm like, you know what? I just want a break. I'm like, can we just play a game that maybe I don't have to think as much? So I talked to Bill and I'm like, hey, do we have a game that maybe we could play with a lot of players? He's like, hey, I got Firefly. It could play up to 9 people. And I'm like, or 10 people. And I'm like, sweet. Let's do that. I don't have to think. It'll be a great experience for me. Sorry, John, go ahead.
Yeah, and then we get to Matt's house and, we have to set it up. So it's set up on like, I think 2 tables. We had everything all set up. And then I'm pretty sure Matt still had to read the rules.
I read the rules. I still had to read the rules. Plus, there's people who said they knew how to play already, which was a lie. Because they clearly didn't remember.
Right. And then basically, we're setting up this game. We're trying to teach the game and learn the game at the same time it's being set up. All 9 of us or 10 of us, whoever was there. And then by the time we got to playing, it was like a half hour per turn because you're making like a ton of decisions. And then it was like another half hour to an hour before your next turn.
Oh,
even longer because everyone's trying to do your turn. So other people like during their turns were like leaving and playing like the Oculus Rift or like shooting like a bow and arrow. And like no one was really like paying attention to the game. So I think everyone did like 1 turn and then we just gave up.
Pizza came in the middle of it too, and then like people are like forgetting how to play the game. We're like, oh, this is a bad idea. This was a terrible idea. I should have just stuck with Pathfinder after like looking back.
Yeah. So I wrote that Firefly could have been an epic game night, but that ship has sailed.
Wow, that's funny because that was actually mine too. How D&D turned into that, and I think that experiment gone wrong. We never did that again. After that,
you are correct. We just stopped going.
We stopped going shortly thereafter. We started getting busy with the podcasting and stuff. I do miss D&D a little bit. Dan replaced me as dungeon master, and he did a fantastic job.
I agree.
It just became a lot, and they actually play more. They play every other week now, so you gotta give it to them to try and speed it along. So that's good. What about you, Michael? Any epic stories or games you've ever played?
Well, yeah, I mean it's really hard to pick a one, but if I had to pick one, it would be my most recent Twilight Imperium 4 game.
Oh.
So this was a full 6-player game, and we started around noon and finished around 8 p.m., which was pretty good. If I remember right, it ended in the 7th round. So we were doing like around an hour plus like dinner. And I think what made it great was that most of the players had played a few times before. I think we only had 1 new player this time, whereas most of the time when I'm playing TI4, we have maybe 2 new players or more than that. And so there was a lot more negotiation, and people like understood that you got to make deals with people to win. And also the gameplay moved along pretty quickly. Finally, I think the other thing that made it really good was that the end of the game, almost everyone was within 1 round of winning. Like I think maybe there was only 1 person that couldn't win on the next round. And I think the game was like maybe it was within 1 point of the two people that the first and second place. So it was exceedingly close.
So it was a nail biter of a game.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I actually thought the winner was further ahead than he was, but someone else had some sneaky stuff. He was able to pull up a few points at the end and close the gap.
Wow. Do you ever have any heated debates at some of your Epic game nights? I know you play you play other Epic games other than Twilight Imperium. I know that. Yeah,
I mean, I think TI4 is the main negotiating Epic game I play.
Okay.
So that's where you'll get the heated debates, where you'll get the person, that's trying to be nice about something, and then he realizes that nice isn't going to work, so then he tells you, if you do this, I'm going to destroy your home world. I'm coming for you. I think it's fun because everyone knows everyone. It's friendly, but it's also it can be intense too at times. I would say outside of this, maybe my other really fun memory of an Epic game was my first play of Roads and Boats.
Okay.
So that happened at a convention in Vermont, actually, a board game convention in Vermont, and I'd never played Roads and Boats. I never even heard about this game, and someone had a copy of it, so we set it up at 8 a.m, and I don't think we finished it that day.
Did you know what you were getting into ahead of time?
I didn't know. I don't think I had an appreciation for how long the game actually was.
Okay. Okay.
But just I think the memory of transporting stuff on my donkeys and, building my geese research factory and stuff was enough to make me want to, play the game in the future. And I think the last time I played was actually on Tabletop Simulator, which works out exceedingly well for Roads and Boats, by the way, if people are interested in trying it out.
Sweet. Now that you mentioned your earliest moment in playing the most epic game, I think mine was actually when I'm about 37 years old now, and when we were 17, so 20 years ago, we actually went camping and we brought Risk with us camping. And I remember that game actually went on for 6 hours for some reason. But it was great because we were camping and had nothing else to do, right? So we would just cook dinner and I think maybe there might have been a break in there. Maybe it was really a 4-hour game or a 3-hour game, but because we braked at one point to eat dinner and stuff. But yeah, that was my first taste of a super epic game, which Risk is it's a pretty easy game to learn. Buy units, roll dice, move, conquer territory.
I'm impressed you finished it in 4 hours.
Yeah, so am I. I lost. I think I actually got kicked out after 2. I think they gagged up on me. I was all right, I'm done. I think I cooked dinner. I think I ended up cooking dinner that night too. I was surprised they kept going. So, but yeah, that's my earliest moment or earliest memory of playing an epic game, I guess. Although Risk doesn't hit any of our epic game points. Other than long and maybe politics, right? But
well, you could play Risk Legacy, right?
We actually did play Risk Legacy, which I enjoyed a lot more because it was a quicker game, and the game board and the game could actually be accelerated by different game components you get later on, right? So I did really like that game too. But that came out later, right? So that came out in 2010s sometime, maybe 2011, 28, maybe 20. Oh, maybe it's 2006. Could be earlier. I don't know. Someone needs to fact check me.
Yeah, I haven't actually played Risk Legacy yet. It's on my list, but I do have a kind of a funny story with that one. I ended up on Craigslist. Someone was selling a copy of Risk Legacy. And so I was like, well, how can you sell a copy of a Legacy game? And the guy said, well, it doesn't look like it's been played. So I went over there and bought the copy of them. I don't remember. It was $5 or something.
Sweet.
And I opened it up and it looks like a group of people started playing this game. They got maybe halfway through the first game of it and decided we're never playing this again and just packed it up.
They're buy Risk Legacy. They're oh, this is gonna be why did we buy this game? Wait, I have to play this 12 more times? God, get rid of it. That's awesome that you picked up for $5 though. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I still intend to play it, and it's got all their signatures and stuff on the board. So I think it's kind of a unique thing. I thought it was.
You should track them down and then why didn't you play this game? A creepy nah, don't do that. That'd be weird. Wow. Okay, that was some good stories. Man. Okay, so everyone remember those 4 points? Can we somehow make them funny? What do y'all think? Could we go beyond epic? What would make an even more epic game than those points that we made?
Well, we could just throw out epic and play a campaign from North Africa.
Oh, is that game that's supposed to be the longest game you ever play or something like that?
Yeah, it's 12,000 hours. It has some ridiculous rules for like water for boiling pasta for your Italian troops. And I think it's such a famous game. There was even an episode, I think, of Big Bang Theory that featured it.
Wow. Is the instruction manual like just a textbook? Is that what it is? Like
I actually haven't even tried reading it. It's so epic. It's beyond my ability to play.
Wow, that's crazy. I mean, I was thinking like instead of like negotiation, you now have like a whole political system. Like you have to get more players involved, and then you have to go through them to get trades and deals. Like you know how you're talking about trading victory points. You're like, okay, council, does everyone approve of my victory point being like traded to the next person? And there's like a voting system. I think that would be pretty sweet, right?
Well, now you mention that, TI4 has a voting system.
Stop it! What? Stop it.
So
You're blowing my mind right now. This is just like, hold on, I wrote this point down to be funny. And it's actually real? Oh, man.
It is. It basically, I think it just comes down to, if there's a mechanism, it's in TI4. So TI4, after you capture Mechatol Rex, it opens up for, essentially, lawmaking. And the way this works is, you draw two laws.
Michael, stop it. Just stop. Lawmaking? Like, you gotta make laws in the galaxy? Oh, my lord. Okay.
Exactly. And you draw two laws, and then everyone votes on them, and you negotiate with people to vote on these laws. And there's even races that bet on the outcome of the laws.
What?
It's crazy.
Oh my! Wow, this game is banana. No wonder why people love it so much. Because there's just so much you could do, right?
Yeah, it's like a space opera sandbox, like combat. I can't think of any game that is like this. It's like, it has a little bit of Puerto Rico, has a little bit of Risk, a little bit of Axis and Allies. And it has, a lot of diplomacy.
It seems like it's only really missing like a good story element, right? Or like some sort of like campaign legacy type thing. That's what it seems like it's missing. If it had that, it would have everything in my mind.
Well, send an email to Fantasy Flight. The next $100 expansion might be a campaign mode.
I'm gonna be like, can I help design the story? I don't know if they'll let me do that though.
I've never played. Can I help design the next story for your $100 expansion?
It'll just be like our Friday night games.
Sold.
Yeah, would that be sweet? We'll say Michael's with us, so maybe like that will give us some sort of edge on the comedy that I'm gonna write in.
Yeah, I mean, well, you could make funny space turtles and like do space turtle things.
Yeah, there's gonna be like I gotta introduce like all the Ninja Turtle characters just to fight the space turtles, just to see just to see Fantasy Flight reject my idea. Right? Like, no, this is a terrible idea. Who would let this guy design the game? I'll point at John. I'll just point at John.
Yeah, so I do have one other kind of fun fact with how Twilight Imperium came to be. Apparently, it was created the same year as Settlers of Catan came out, the very first edition of TI4. And it was created by Christian T. Peterson, who was running a comic book company in Minnesota. And his comic books weren't selling very well. So apparently he grew up, his father was a board game distributor, I think in Europe somewhere. And he said, I can create a board game and I can go sell it. So he created this game, this TI, Twilight Imperium, with these hexagons. And he thought it was going to be the biggest thing because it uses these hexagons. And then he brought it to, I think, Origins to sell it, like outside of the game hall or something. And then he saw they were playing Settlers of Catan, which also had hexagons there. And he was like, no, they did the same idea.
Oh, man, that sucks.
But needless to say, it sold really well then, and it kind of launched Fantasy Flight Games.
Wow. Oh, so that's the original game that started Fantasy Flight Games then.
Yeah, that's how it was created. And then I think he just recently left Fantasy Flight, but he even was a major force in the Twilight Imperium 4 design.
Wow, that's awesome. I mean, his legacy, like, he made basically the most epic game ever that helped him start a company. That's a pretty amazing flight for him, right?
Yeah.
Michael, thank you for coming on our show and basically educating us all about Twilight Imperium 4. It was a great experience, and we're looking forward to having you on again, maybe in the near future.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I really enjoyed this, and I love talking about board games.
Awesome. So just before we head out, can you remind everyone where they could find you?
Yeah, so if you want to find my channel, it's on YouTube, YouTube/Athex Tube, ATHEXTUBE. I'm also on Instagram and Twitter at Athex Tube.
Awesome. Thanks again, Michael. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys. It was real fun.
If you like what you hear, don't forget to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or follow us on your favorite streaming platform. Yeah, you can check us out on our socials, Instagram at Friday Night Games _official, Twitter at Friday Night GMS, and Twitch at Friday Night GMS. If there's a game that you would like for us to preview on our podcast, shoot us an email at info@fridaynight.games. And don't forget, it's Friday night. Let's have some fun.